Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is NURFARAHAIN binti MOHAMAD 261080 from Group A. So, today I'm going to discuss about the economic condition in the world in the aftermath of COVID-19. Introduction of COVID-19. The outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic has dramatically affected global economic activity since early 2020. The rapid spread of the novel coronavirus has required drastic measures to be taken, ranging from social distancing and banning of public events to shutdowns, lockdowns, and restrictions on numerous activities. The severity of this measure has begun to ease in some jurisdictions as authorities are proceeding to gradually lift them and reopen certain sectors of the economies. Initially, the perception was that the COVID-19 pandemic would be localized in China only. It later spread across the world through movement of people. The economic pain became severe as people were asked to stay at home, and the stability was felt in various sectors of the economy, with travel bans affecting the aviation industry, sporting event cancellation affecting the sport industry, the prohibition of mass gathering affected the event and entertainment industry. The coronavirus outbreak led the government of many countries to impose restrictions on non-essential travel to countries affected by COVID-19, indefinitely suspending tourism travel, work visas and immigrant visas. Some countries placed a complete travel ban on all forms of inward or outward travel, shutting down all airports in the country. At the height of the coronavirus pandemic, most airplanes flew almost empty due to the mass passenger cancellation. The travel restrictions imposed by government subsequently led to reduction in the demand for all forms of travel, which forced some airlines to temporarily suspend operation. Some travel restrictions cost the tourism industry alone a loss of over $200 billion globally, excluding other loss of revenue for tourism travel, and were forecast to cost the aviation industry a total loss of $113 billion according to IATA. To the hospitality industry, restaurant businesses have been affected during the pandemic mainly through the government-announced stay-at-home policy and social distancing movement restrictions imposed by government in many countries. This led to rapid shutdown in cities and states to control the spread of the coronavirus, which threw many restaurants and hotels across the country into sudden shock. Hotels across the world witnessed booking cancellation worth billions of dollars, and hotel industry sought a $150 billion bailout. Many customers stayed at home, preferred to eat cooked meal at home. Some restaurant executives criticized the government for imposing the stay-at-home and social distancing policy, which destroyed many small restaurants and pub businesses in small cities. They argued that government's announcement of stay-at-home policies or social distancing policies was an indirect way of telling people not to come to the pubs, hotels and restaurants, which was a way of silently destroying the hospitality industry during the pandemic. The sport industry was severely affected during the coronavirus outbreak. In the football segment, major European football league in England and Scotland announced the immediate suspension of football matches for 6 weeks until 33rd April. The Turkish Super League was the last major European league to suspend its match. In Formula 1, the Monaco Grand Prix was cancelled. The Tokyo Summer Olympic and Paralympic Games were also postponed. The motorsport game in Portugal was postponed after the Portuguese government declared a state of emergency and suspended all sporting events in the country. In the snooker segment, the World Snooker Championship to be held in Sheffield from 18th April to 4th May was postponed. In the swimming segment, the 2020 European Aquatic Championship scheduled for 11th to 24th in Hungary was postponed until August. In the golf segment, the LPGA Tour was rescheduled for 10th to 13th September 2020. The resulting loss in revenue to the sponsor and organizer of the cancelled game ran into billions of dollars. Early in 2020, the price of oil fell due to the oil price war between Russia and Saudi Arabia. The corona pandemic worsened the situation through reduction in the demand for oil. The imposed travel restrictions during the pandemic, which led to reduction in the movement of the people and goods result in the fall in demand for aviation fuel, coal and other energy products, which subsequently lead to a fall in oil price due to low demand. The coronavirus crisis also affected a wide range of energy markets such as the coal, gas and renewable energy market, but its impact on oil market was more severe because it stopped the movement of people and goods, which led to a drastic decline in the demand for transport fuel. When Saudi Arabia later supplied excess oil to the world, the market was flooded with too much oil, exceeding demand during the COVID-19 pandemic and subsequently leading to a fall in oil price. Many import demand countries were severely affected during the coronavirus pandemic. Many countries imported their essential commodity from major exporting countries like China, India and Japan and depend largely on these countries for the consumption of essential commodities. The reduction in goods flowing through the global supply chain and substantial reliance on China for imported goods led to shortage of supply to import-dependent countries as China shut down many of its export factories. This led to increase in the price of the remaining stock of imported supplies already in import-dependent countries, which also triggered inflationary pressure on the price of basic commodity despite the general low demand for import due to the coronavirus pandemic. It was difficult to find alternative import after China's shutdown because many countries has partially or fully closed their border, which stifled international trade at the time. The macroeconomic slowdown led to a rise in the non-performing loans in the banking sector by 250 basis points. Private sector's bank has the highest exposure to credit risk during the outbreak. Non-performing loans arose from loans issued to small and medium-scale enterprise (SMEs), airlines, hotel, tour operators, restaurant, retail, construction, and real estate businesses. During the pandemic, there was a general decline in the volume of bank transactions, a decline in card payment, and a fall in the use of ATM cash machines worldwide. This led to fewer fees collected by banks, which negatively affected bank profit. Fintech businesses were also affected. Some fintech businesses witnessed very low patronage by consumers leading to loss of revenue and profit, which negatively affected the equity investment of venture capitalists that funded existing and new fintech firms. This made many venture capitalists begin to hoard new equity, which led to the drying up of financing for future fintech businesses. On the other hand, the lockdown due to the coronavirus outbreak resulted in higher demand for some sort of online services such as online shopping. The most visible outcome of the COVID-19 crisis on financial markets was the effect in the global stock market. Global stock market lost $6 trillion in value over 6 days from 23rd to 28 February, according to S&P Dow Jones Indices. In the same period, large international banks witnessed a plunge in their share price. For example, Citigroup share price fell by 49%, though the oil price war in which Russia and Arabia were driving down oil price by increasing oil production played a role in the fall in stock market indices. The subsequent fall in stock market indices in March was mainly due to investors' flight to safety during the coronavirus pandemic. Prior to 2020, the event sector contributed significantly to the economy. During the coronavirus outbreak, the event industry was hit financially by a large number of cancellations, such as exhibition, live music shows, conference, wedding parties, corporate events, brand launches, trade shows, and more. Several big events were cancelled. For instance, the E3 and SXSW Tech event were cancelled, which led to direct losses beyond $1 billion. Informa delayed or cancelled event worth $400 million over coronavirus pandemic. The 2020 Met Gala was postponed indefinitely. The effect of the outbreak on global live event was worsened by the social distancing policy imposed by several governments. The global filming industry incurred a $5 million loss during the coronavirus outbreak. Several Hollywood movie productions were postponed indefinitely, which meant goodbye to theaters and cinema. The International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees reported that an estimated 120,000 below-the-line entertainment industry jobs were lost due to the coronavirus pandemic, most of which were theatrical stage employees. The pandemic shutdown resulted in the loss of 120,000 jobs held by its 115,000 members, and the IATSE advocated that the entertainment industry should be included in the planned federal stimulus package. In Italy, The COVID-19 outbreak severely affected the entertainment industry, which incurred losses estimated to run into the millions of euros per week. Unemployment level in the entertainment industry rose to unprecedented high, and yet there were doubts as to whether the entertainment industry would receive part of the planned federal stimulus package, as many lawmakers argue that the entertainment industry was not a main driver of the economy, and some argue that the entertainment industry does not contribute much to economic activities compared to the financial and manufacturing sector. In many countries, the service of public hospitals grew in high demand, but the majority of the testing equipment were in private hospitals. China temporarily closed all hospitals in the central city of Wuhan, which is the epicenter of a coronavirus outbreak. Iran's hospitals struggled to cope with the coronavirus outbreak. In Spain, the Spanish government nationalized all private hospitals and healthcare providers as the virus was spreading very rapidly. Singapore has sufficient healthcare facilities and workers to cope with the growing number of COVID-19 patients, and private hospitals were inviting and accepting foreign COVID-19 patients. The Ministry of Health in Singapore subsequently advised all doctors in public and private hospitals and private specialist clinics to immediately stop accepting new foreign patients who do not live in Singapore. The coronavirus outbreak also affected the pharmaceutical supply chain. Drug makers around the world rely heavily on ingredients made in Chinese factories. About 60% of the world's active pharmaceutical ingredients were made in China before the coronavirus outbreak, and the coronavirus outbreak caused severe supply problems as China shut down majority of its factories, including factories that produce drugs. The effect of the outbreak on the health sector was the increase in the number of deaths due to the short supply of drugs, lack of vaccine to cure the patient, insufficient number of hospital beds, and insufficient isolation centers to cater for the rising number of COVID-19 cases. The coronavirus disrupted the $600 billion higher education industry. Educators and students around the world felt the ripple effect of the coronavirus as colleges and universities were instructed to shut down after the coronavirus was declared a public health emergency in many countries. There was school closure of some kind in 44 countries on 4 continents, including Africa, with hundreds of million students around the world facing disruption. The outbreak had a more severe consequence on schools that did not have an online learning platform. Public schools in the US were closed. Australia shut down some schools, while countries like Israel, Nigeria, Egypt, Italy, France, and Spain shut down all schools, and this created some form of unemployment for teachers. Northern Ireland government suspended all examinations in its college and university. On the positive side, there was suggestion that coronavirus outbreak increased the importance of online education and distance learning. But the reality was that only a small percentage of the world education is taught online, and it was unlikely that outbreak will lead to a radical shift from classroom education to online education. Only few schools had the capacity to arrange a distance learning program for their students. Economic agents react to the impact of COVID-19 positively. They try to find solutions for every problem. For example, in health, fighting COVID-19 requires a country-appropriate testing approach, applying lessons from the Ebola crisis. For example, save the children, addressing mobility and logistical constraints in maintaining healthcare and health supply chains, and integrating IT solutions. In all countries, it is important to ensure that other health problems, including vaccination, do not get neglected. But these problems are not the same in every country. Perhaps the only common response is the need to shore up primary health system for children and women. For agriculture and food security, solutions are beginning to emerge to restructure value chain, support rural enterprise, and assist the rural poor. In education, a range of resources and strategies have emerged virtually overnight for supporting children while out of the school with remote education technologies and alternatives to school meals. There is a growing list of innovative approaches for getting children back to school as soon as it is reasonably safe to do so, while integrating the lesson from remote learning into the classroom. For social small and medium enterprises, there are heightened risks of survival, and various initiatives are underway to assist them during the crisis and afterward. Company engagement was noted by many commentators as being especially critical during times of crisis to help protect and rebuild social capital. The role of women in community deserves particular attention and support. The International Labour Organization (ILO) estimates 25 million workers will lose their job globally as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. The impact of the life of the individual involved and their family is going to be very severe. Millions may have to move out of their home because they may longer afford to pay the monthly mortgage payment or rent. Millions may also be unable to afford food for their families. Many business organizations are not able to carry out normal business operations, especially in countries where authorities are implementing restrictive lockdown or social distancing measures. The reduction in household income will also mean reduction in demand in the economy, which will further cause reduction in revenue and income for business organizations. Now that even the United States believe in throwing trillions to save IT's economy in the face of COVID-19 pandemic, perhaps it is time to examine the merit of the Wakaf model as a sustainable system for shared economic prosperity. Wakaf, W-A-Q-F, pronounced Wakaf, is an Arabic-derived word to mean endowment. In the Muslim world, Wakaf is actually property or asset donated or endorsed to be used, usually in productive investment or religious purpose. Therefore, we can consider Wakaf as a global financial cure for the economic revival post-COVID-19. The COVID-19 pandemic so far has been general, comprehensive, intercontinental, and intersectoral. It has spared neither country nor sector and caused tremendous loss. However, there is a consensus that the micro, small, and medium-sized enterprise (MSME) sector will experience the greatest loss and is now in the eyes of the storm. The damage incurred by MSMEs is mainly due to the great economic downturn, the drop of global and local demand due to travel and movement restrictions, as well as the large-scale confinement imposed by the law in most countries. Therefore, MSME are fighting for survival despite shrinking economic activities. They are required to fund resources to cover their constant and changing operating expenses such as salaries, rent, and other expenses. They are obligated to fulfill their undertaking toward lending financial institutions, not to mention tax that they must pay. Therefore, the best solution for many enterprises will be to cut expenses by letting go of workers. This then may transform the economic crisis into severe social crisis, with economists warning that 25 million jobs could be lost worldwide. The ISDB group instantly responded to the consequence of the COVID-19 pandemic and started preparing a comprehensive 2 billion package, dedicating a significant portion of it to support and empower MSME sectors in member countries. The aim of the program prepared by the ISDB group is to provide part of the necessary liquidity with preferential mode for member countries through their financial sector. It is expected to be supported by a lending guarantee program and capacity building grant for MCs in the preparation of support program and incentive package for such enterprise. This has been designed in order to save direct and indirect jobs, energize economic activity, and help regain the growth space to overcome the current crisis and its potential future consequences. This program is worth $500 million and try to make it a resource mobilizing tool from partner development institutions, in addition to local partners in member countries, to maximize the target impact. The program is expected to contribute to saving more than 200,000 direct jobs in addition to indirect jobs. With this, the bank will contribute to saving nearly 5% of at-risk jobs globally and a higher percentage in the Muslim world. As the global development community responds to the COVID-19 pandemic, a diverse and inclusive set of stakeholders must be engaged to address the enormous challenge. While the crisis has created immense human suffering, it has also sparked worldwide action from institutions and people eager to help. The UN Secretary General called for solidarity on March 19, outlined 3 components: tackling the health emergency, focusing on social impact in the response and recovery, and helping countries recover more sustainable for the long term. UNDP Integrated Response to COVID-19 offers support and guidance to countries to prepare, respond, and recover. The immediate priorities identified in the response include health system support, inclusive and integrated crisis management and response, and social and economic impact needs assessment and response. Islamic finance can be part of the COVID-19 response to a range of financial instruments well suited for each stage. First stage is the emergency support in the short term. In this term, zakat can be an important component of national and NGO emergency support program. Donors typically require that zakat be disbursed within 1 year of being given. This focus on immediate benefit is well suited for crisis response. Zakat donors both the poor and economically insecure an area of increased need in the pandemic. Zakat donors often give cash transfer, which can be especially important in emergencies. Individual philanthropy is a broad tool that can be used to support healthcare, food, and other immediate needs. Corporate philanthropy can be a way for businesses to contribute not only money but also good and expertise. Second term is response and recovery in the medium term. The financing of equipment, vehicle and other sources of livelihood and trade finance are key mechanisms by which Islamic banks and financial institutions can support recovery. Aligning their financing activity with the SDG is a significant opportunity for Islamic banks. The coronavirus pandemic makes such initiatives all the more urgent. Impact investing. Private investment prioritize business with social impact can play a central role in the recovery. UNDP Global Islamic Finance and Impact Investment Platform launched in 2015 in partnership with the Islamic Development Bank Group brings global impact investing expertise to Islamic finance. SDG aligned with Sukuk, which is the bond equivalent, can be an important source of long-term capital for government and companies engaged in the COVID response and recovery. UNDP's support of the government of Indonesia Green Sukuk, including a 1.25 billion issuance in 2018, is a prime example of how insurers can partner with UNDP to identify, track, and report on their SDG impact. They provide a decade of funding for international national SDG plans. UNDP has through its Green Sukuk initiative had workshops and other outreach with partners in Malaysia, Pakistan and beyond. As the pandemic has made long-term funding for development all the more crucial, UNDP stands ready to help. Wakaf endowment can, in many contexts, be important contributor to long-term resilience. Financial or non-financial assets such as land or building are permanently dedicated to social purpose. This can be an important way for stakeholders to contribute to social infrastructure that serve the SDGs and in the world of the UN Secretary General, help countries recover better over the long term. This is a time for new ways to help tackle devastation of COVID-19 and invest in sustainable development. Islamic finance has the tool for each stage of the response. UNDP stands ready to help countries and communities unlock this vital partnership and instrument to respond to the pandemic. So, the conclusion is, I hope that this pandemic coronavirus will end very soon and global economy will be back to normal and everyone can live in peaceful and normal again. Let's pray together. That's all from me. Thank you.